Hello everyone and welcome. It's Shanna. Now today I've got some pink in Maine. I have got boutiques for every season, I think is what it's called. And it's from Pink in Maine. And I was digging in my stash the other day. Actually, last night I was watching a live, I think from Donna on Pink in Maine. And she was working with some product, and she was working with some product that I have, not this particular product. And I went to look in my bin of Pink in Maine, and I came across this, and I thought, I don't think I've even used it. These I hadn't opened either. They were actually stored with it. I can't see where these have any ink on them. Maybe one of the sentiments might have some ink on it, but I don't think I've used them. I did go ahead and kind of pan my channel to see if I had done anything with them, and I didn't readily find anything, so I'm not sure. So I've got some Nina Solar white paper here, and I'm going to use the fall bouquet and the Christmas bouquet, and we're going to create two different seasonal cards. And so we're just going to stamp them up, and then we'll get to coloring them, and we're just going to make a couple of quick cards. So I'm just looking at the sentiments. I'm going to use the Thinking of You for the fall one, and then I'm not going to use one for the Christmas one because there's not a Christmas sentiment on here. I'm checking. And I'm just going to leave it alone, and I'll pull in a Christmas sentiment for my stash. So I'm going to grab some anti-static embossing powder and just cover this panel real quick. I rarely do that, and I generally don't have problems with it, but I'm going to use my VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, and it's good dark ink, and we'll get these two bouquets and our sentiment inked up, and then we'll do some heat embossing. I like to do like clear heat embossing over my black, and it just helps me with my coloring to stay in the lines. I am not a colorist. I have a little bit of fun coloring, but I don't profess to be any good at it. So I've got my fall and I've got my Christmas images stamped, and we're just going to put some clear embossing powder on it, and then we'll heat them up and we'll be ready to color. I'm just cutting this apart. I'm going to save that. I don't want to waste it, and I can use it for, smaller pieces or whatever. So we'll just get this embossing powder on there. I like to lay it on there twice. That way I make sure everything gets covered really well, and it looks good. So we'll do our Christmas one. We're going to do it the same way. I used that Sweet Petunia paper the other day when I had to pull my sticky mat out, and it was kind of all crumpled up, and I thought I'm just going to use it to catch the embossing powder. So I've got them ready to go, and I've got a cute little paper clip I'm just going to stick on there and just hold it so I can get these heated up. And you can see it coming to life. After I do the front, I usually kind of blow the heat on the back just to try and help take the bow out of it, because it does bow a little bit. And there we go. We've got our Christmas. So next, I'm just going to bring in some of my markers. I don't use Copic, and so there's no need for me to tell you the colors that I'm using. I did reference that color chart that I showed you to pick out the colors. The two schemes. I wanted the fall scheme and then the Christmas scheme. And so I just picked out some yellows and browns, some rusty colors for the fall scene. And then we'll go with some red and some greens for the Christmas scene. And it'll all come together pretty quickly. Oh, I had to pause the voiceover for a moment. My husband was talking in the background. So we're just going to continue to color up, and then we're going to put our cards together. I think I'll play some music, and you can watch me finish coloring, and then we'll come back in and we'll assemble our cards. Okay, we're back and we've got all of our coloring done, and we just need to bring in the dies, the coordinating dies for these, and get them die cut out, and then we will be ready to start assembling our card. So I'm fussing with these dies, trying to figure out which one fits which, and it took me entirely too long, and so I cut that part off so you wouldn't have to sit and watch me fumble around with these forever. And we'll get them laid down on here. Then I'm going to bring in the plates to my Empress, and we'll just get these die cut out, and then we'll be able to begin building our cards. And I did pull together all of my elements in advance and had a general idea of where I was headed with these two cards. So I'll get this lined up, taped down, die cut out. We'll come back in and we'll start working on them. So we are continuing to have just absolutely lovely weather. I don't know if I said that already. When you get disrupted in a voiceover and you have to come back at a later time, you just can't remember what you said, what you didn't say, or whatever. And sometimes you add comments about the weather just as filler. So one time I had somebody make a comment, "Thanks for the card and the weather update." So I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing that I'm talking about the weather in my area. So I'm bringing in just a die from, it's called Documenting Labels. It's a set from Spellbinders, and I'm just going to die cut this sentiment out because I don't always cut a straight line, so these dies are my friends. And I will actually, off camera, when I pull together some more stuff, I will bring in one of those other documented label dies to lay that sentiment down. Now here I've colored in the white edges of the stamped images, and I've colored them to match my background. And I'm bringing in this fun patterns from Pink and Main, and we're going to use these for our pattern, the pattern paper layer of our cards. I'm cutting them down to 3 3/4 by 5 because we're going to have multiple layers on this. I will link all the materials in the description box below so you can check them out. I did check, and these bouquet, the florals for all season, or whatever they're called, are available still on Pink and Main, and I believe the paper is too, so I will link that up for you so you can check it out. And you can help support Pink and Main. So I took a panel and I die cut. This is where I die cut out another one of those labels so that I can layer up my sentiment thinking of you. And I just took it out of the center of this panel because I knew I was going to use this panel to lay down. And I do like to gut my papers. In fact, I would have liked to gut this a little bit more, but I didn't. So we'll just get it laid down on here. And we're going to bring in another panel. Now you can see I did get this one. The arched frame is going to be a layer on this particular card. And I've realized that I've laid that glue on there and I wasn't ready. This is an A2 size panel and it needs to be 4 by 5 1/4. So I've got to cut it down a little bit. And I just cut it from the one side because I had glue all over it. A lot of times I'll cut from, all 4 sides just to make it even, and it won't matter because we've got a 3 3/4 by 5 inch panel that's going to lay on this, and it will cover up most of it anyway, so I wasn't too worried about it. So we'll just layer this up with a nice little frame around it. And then we can add our pattern paper. And I thought this, now I picked, I colored that bouquet up with my markers and just got it all ready and everything. And then I went searching for some pattern paper and some cardstock. And I was just pleasantly pleased that I had this pattern paper that looks so nicely with this floral element. And then I also had this cardstock in my stash to where I could pair it up nicely. And I thought it really complemented each other very well. So I was pretty pleased with that. So I'm just going to get my arches. This is a nested arches set from Spellbinders. I'll try to link it up. And I didn't have any large foam tape. I guess I'm out of it. So I put a whole bunch of those large circle foam circles on there, and it took me forever, so I cut some of that out. And then here is our little label, and I think it looks really pretty. It kind of makes it a little bit more formal and a little more elegant having that on there. And so I'm just going to layer it up, and we'll get it positioned on our card. I think it turns out really pretty. I really like this card. I like this one more than the Christmas one that I did. I think I got pretty dark on the Christmas. So we'll get this glued up. We're just going to lay it down because we've already popped up our arches. And then we'll put our thinking of you on there. And I'm just going to get it positioned. I think I'm happy with that. So we'll lay it down on there. And then we've got a good amount of open space there on the right side of our arch. And so I just grabbed some little mini golden gems, and I am going to get them put down here. They're flying all over the place. I have to kind of chase them around the card because they just are flipping right off of that plastic, and I'm just chasing them around. And I'm just going to make kind of a squiggly line of gems down to the sentiment, and I think it looks really pretty. Gives a little sparkle to it. So that'll finish off that card. Just a real pretty note card that you can use for anything. Now I've chosen this red and white striped. It kind of looks like, it puts me in the mind of candy cane or, something like that. So very Christmassy. And you can see what I mean by pretty dark. The stamped image, I've colored it really dark. And then I added the black to lay on the black circle that I've got here. And so it made it look, even darker. So this time, before I added the glue, I am going to remember to cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4. I did my layers the same with this. My pattern paper is 3 3/4 by 5, and my black layer is A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And we'll just throw some glue down on here and get it laid down on there. Again, I gutted this panel with the circle, and we're going to layer it up. And some crafters like to fill the circle back in with stuff. I just don't worry about it. I put enough layers on there and usually have some pretty heavy cardstock, and I just don't feel like it really is noticeable or makes a difference on my cards. So I'm making sure I've got the card base laying in the right direction before I get everything laid down on there. And this pattern paper here from Pink and Main is pretty heavy. So it's going to, make a good solid layer. And then, with the green, we're going to pretty much have that, gap covered. And then we're layering those circles back up on it. So I like the, I brought in the silver for the black just to add a little bit of shine to it. And we've, got the black, the green, the red, and the white. And I think it just kind of pulls everything in together. Now this die, I don't know. It's just a cheap old die. It's not one of my... It's one that I got a long way when I first got started, and it's got a little bump on it. And so I'm going to position it to where I think I can cover it up with the sentiment. So I spun it around there so that hopefully my sentiment will cover up that. It's right where my thumb is on my right hand. And we'll try to layer. Actually, I think I wind up laying my sentiment down at the bottom once I fool around with it, but I don't think anybody will notice it. So I had some foam squares, and I thought, well, rather than use those circles and have to lay several of them down on there, we'll just use this fun foam, and we'll lay it down, and then I'll just put glue on the back side that's not sticky. And so we're just going to pop up our poinsettia bouquet. And that particular stamp set from Pink and Main did not have a Christmas sentiment. So I went to that bowl that you guys have seen me go to before that has all of the sentiments that I have pre-made, and I'm going to use wishing you peace, love, and joy for this card. I think it's a perfect sentiment for a Christmas card. And we'll just get it laid down there at the bottom. And that'll finish off this card. I'm not going to embellish it any further. We're just going to go with it. So these are our 2 cards. So we've got our poinsettia card and we've got our fall card. And I think they turned out great. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye now.